Today we're chatting with Amy Lynn Green about her new book, The Lines Between Us. Thanks, Amy, for taking the time to do this today.
Happy to be here.
Your last novel, Things We Didn't Say, was set in Minnesota in the 1940s, and you've returned to World War II in your new novel, this time though set in Oregon. What attracts you to that time period, the World War II era?
You know, I think World War II had a lot of inherent conflict and drama in it. There were lots of different ethical issues at play, and it's something that I haven't read a lot of books set in the US home front, which is what I'm most interested in exploring because it's something that I know very little bit about. So that's why I've set both of my first two books there. And this one in particular, I knew very little about conscientious objectors during World War II. It's something I hadn't even thought of before researching this book. So it was really fun to learn a little bit more in the writing process.
There are about 20,000 conscientious objectors who took up more domestic tasks like fighting fires in this case, or working in hospitals. What kind of attracted you to the idea of doing a book about conscientious objectors?
Yeah, I think the idea for this started when I found out that there were a number of conscientious objectors in Minnesota, where I live, who volunteered to be human experiments and starved themselves basically so that researchers could figure out how to rehabilitate starving populations in Europe after the war. Mm-hmm. And in researching that, I saw how many of them were committed to proving that they weren't cowards just because they didn't want to take someone's life. And so they were willing to do something that was an extreme sacrifice and was something I wouldn't be willing to do because they cared so much about the ideals that they held, which was very different than my stereotype of a conscientious objector. And the same thing with the ones I chose to write about in The Lines Between Us, who parachuted into wildfires during the war and hard manual labor, great risk of death and injury. And because those challenged my beliefs, I wanted to raise them to readers and say, hey, even if you don't agree with the point of view that these people had or the way that they applied their faith to the question of whether or not they should fight in the military, you have to respect how they lived out their faith and their convictions. And that was really challenging to me. And I wanted a book that both sides. So ideally, you should be able to read the book without knowing what I personally believe, and hoping that it'll challenge people who come at the issue of conscientious objectors from whatever perspective to learn a little bit more about why the other side believes the way they do.
Right. Now, specifically in this story, The Lines Between Us, we have two buddies, Gordon and Jack, and they're the firefighters who parachute into Oregon. There's a suspiciously high number of fires happening, and one of them, Jack, becomes injured. Tell us a bit about their friendship and then the arrival of Dory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Dory is Jack's sister and formerly a sweetheart of Gordon before she found out that he was a conscientious objector, because she is very much in favor of the war and everyone doing their part. So she serves as a kind of counterpoint to Jack and Gordon because they believe something very different than she believes. And why I wanted to have those relationships there is because you love the friendship between Jack and Gordon. They're just really great and loyal friends. And you can see in their interactions with each other the struggle of their beliefs as conscientious objectors. And then you throw Dory into the mix, and she is just a live wire. She joined the Women's Army Corps. She says what she thinks, and she's right there. And so she kind of gives a challenge to Gordon and what he believes. And the two of them together have to rethink some of the beliefs that they have planned their whole life around. And so fun to write. They're two very different personalities in this book.
I'm just going to put the cover up on the screen right now. People can see that it's a beautiful cover. However, Amy, I did draw my own cover for you. And so this is Gordon, and you can see he's got the fire hose. And this is Dory, and these are the lines that are between them. And so now it may be too late. It may have already gone to print, but I really think that I should email this to you for consideration. Maybe in an updated version down the road or reissue. I think I'm onto something here. This is Gordon's fire hat, by the way.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that for a future edition, that seems like just the thing. And like maybe you could even do illustrations throughout, Martin.
Oh, no, I like
illustrated version of the book.
Yeah, and I've got a big pad here, so I mean, take care of that. Thanks so much for taking the time to tell us about The Lines Between Us. I wish you all the success with it. And I'm looking forward to reading it the moment I can get my hands on a copy.
Well, thank you, Martin. I appreciate it.